Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 8th of May, and we had a continuation yesterday with the, magenta leading MBI right here, and that's pretty clear, as well as the dip that we had from the orange going below red, and red continued to rise. It was pretty modest. Again, didn't expect this to run too long. The shakeout definitely has to move towards positive. Any breakup there would definitely be problematic. We were almost at positive extreme, so more money's going to have to flow in to keep this thing moving. But you've got quite a range here now at 56 for the MBI magenta that would have to dip down below to really create significant issues, moving below the 33 and then definitely below the 25 range, much further down. So it's a little bit of a safety range, but we know that once selling starts, it can really start to amplify. But you're still in this period where now you have buybacks that are lined up to buy quite a bit of individual shares. So depending on where that money's allocated, certainly could be enough to sustain things or at least keep them modestly okay. When it comes to support range, it's pretty straightforward. You have the 61% right here. Move below that, you definitely less likely to believe that they can sustain the move, because that's going to definitely create a crossover situation, and particularly if shorts increase, we would need to see MBI white take a pretty significant spike above that 33 points. So that's definitely something to watch out for, but we'll see it intraday long before it takes place regularly. From a treasury standpoint, everyone's convinced rates are going down. This continues to fuel a force into equities. I think no other alternative, and it's necessary for the Fed from their viewpoint, because they have to keep rates under control, because moving the opposite direction is problematic. Now, what does that do to inflation? Well, not a problem if you continue to see oil drag. And so they even talked about this. The Biden administration is willing to dump into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve again to help drive oil prices down, and that might be just a little job loaning to help force prices down. But any supply constraint or international situation could be out of their control when it comes to that, and that would definitely create a tough situation. So you can see we really retraced all the positive extremes from oil going back there. Now it's just clearly whether or not the economic activity has slowed enough that there isn't the demand that's going to drive price back up, or any supply constraints. Haven't really heard much from the Middle East situation as far as oil tankers having difficulties in that. So from that standpoint, okay. And the domestic side, there's been enough supply to keep things robust. When we look at it from a euro standpoint, again, eased oil should definitely be a bonus to the euro. It's already kind of moved ahead of where oil prices were, so it's going to take a little bit of time for that to catch up. But again, it's an interesting situation when you have this inflationary pressure that hasn't abated in any way, shape, or form, and so you're going to have rates falling under continued rising prices, and that's only going to drive inflation even without oil being a catalyst for it. And so that becomes an additional strain on the economy. It's basically, you're paying for in inflation what the Fed is doing to keep rates under control. Not very effective from that standpoint. And that's certainly going to drive commodities. There's no way that all of them aren't going to start rising as a counterbalance to that. That's just the way it works. And so we can expect to see, everything from your gold to cryptos, see a secondary push forward. A couple of them have some other issues, like ETH with its regulatory situation and having to sue for moving forward, blah, 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 blah. But again, it still creates that configuration of an alternative to where fiat goes, and the market, of course, isn't going to take the haircut on that, so that's why it's increased. So it took out the long setup. What was that long? From 51.47 all the way to 52.11. Nice run. And now you've got a complete reset of your MBI magenta. At this particular point, though, you have MBI white leading, but with that steel coming from the bottom, not a whole lot of threat. You'd have to have the steel pop up through red, or in this case, if it dips back below negative 13, it would be a short-lived dip, which would set up a new buy opportunity coming forward. So there's a very strong configuration when you see that. Last time it was over here. It just means that you get continuation until you get that breakup, either a DOC red falling that allows the cyan to move above, or counter move of just lack of interest, and the DOC starts to reset completely. So all good from that standpoint. When we look at it from an intraday right now, modestly, I just started to see some selling increase in the last 15 or so minutes, but relatively benign. If you go back to yesterday and that, it was pretty much back and forth action. That's why we didn't see as big a range. But the volatility on that, I think, is going to continue, because you have to continue to assault the option plays and kill the gamma, particularly as the week moves forward. Just to prevent them from being too upside down on any one direction. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot more of the volatility, because that certainly has been a play of recent, I would say over the last year plus. It's been growing with a favorability, simply because it's an all or nothing situation, and you're not stuck in a situation where you can't handle losses that come from sharp swings. It's just going to wipe out whatever that option play was. And you can see from an intraday standpoint, rallied up, but it completely filled it all back in, only to move back up midway through that. And I think that's a perfect example of that right there. So it gets both sides, and I think that's the only way that we can go forward in this particular environment, the way things are at. So that's the long and the short of it for now. Anything relative or important, I will put it up on Skype chat. Have a good one. Trade well.